Hi, my name is Jeff and welcome back to my workshop. Today we're going to be installing decoders in the Walthers Proto 2000 AB set of F7s. For the A unit I selected a DH166PS. This is a 6-function decoder and it's got a short harness, as you can see, but we're actually not going to need the harness because the locomotive comes with a 9-pin plug on here. So the first step is to remove the 2 screws that hold the small circuit board in place. That circuit board is really just a jumper to allow for DC operations. So that can be discarded, or in my case I'm going to save it in case the club ever needs to convert this back to DC. So be careful removing the plug. Use tools if you need to help pry the plug loose from the circuit board. Take your time and be careful, but once it starts working itself loose, it should come out fairly easily. By the way, the B unit is exactly the same, except I used a DH127 decoder because I don't need the functions since there's no lights on that. So once that plug is off, once the circuit board's removed, and you can see this one was being a little tricky, but I finally got the plug worked loose using the tip of my screwdriver to push it up and pull it out. So once that's removed, then the decoder can be plugged into it. That plug only fits into the decoder one way, so that makes it easy to slip in. You can see the plugs are a little off center, so you just have to make sure the plugs turn the correct way and then just push that into place. With that done, you just need to tape it in place on the back of the locomotive. I used a little Kapton tape over the wires at the weight to hold those down, and also a little bit along the back just to hold the decoder in place. By the way, if you find this content helpful and you're enjoyable, please make sure you hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss updates. Both of those do help with the YouTube algorithm, so it does help me gain and helps more people see my videos if you subscribe and like, and also if you leave comments. So I'd love to hear from you on your opinions or how you do things differently, or any questions you have on what I'm doing. I do look forward to reading the comments, so please make sure you leave a comment for me. So Kapton tape, by the way, is an electrical tape. It's a thin cellophane tape, but it's insulated and heat resistant, so it works well in these cases, more so than regular black electrician's tape. So you can see the decoder wants to push itself back, so a little piece of tape on top of the decoder and down the back is great. There is a plug on the back of these to plug in a keep alive current circuit if you need to, so you want to make sure you just keep the tape off of it from covering that plug in case I want to add that capacitor pack at a future date. With that done, we can install the shell on the unit, and then we'll move on. Now, because I'm keeping that circuit board just in case I need to reload it, so those screws don't get lost, I'm just reinserting them into the frame. That way, if I do need to convert this back to DC, those screws are already available. Okay, and with that done, now we can put the shell back in place. and turn our attention to the couplers. So we have two different couplers, one on the front, one on the rear. And the model came with couplers, but they use separate springs, including a coiled spring that's used on a shallow box from Katie box. I don't particularly like those. I prefer whisker couplers. So I'm going to use that coupler box, but I'm going to use the Katie number 148 whisker coupler. And in fact, I may switch these at the rear couplers and the B unit couplers out to 143s, which are short shanked couplers, so that the units sit a little closer together. That does a couple of things. One, it makes things look much more realistic, and two, it saves a little bit of space on staging in the staging yards for the trains. The front coupler uses a medium shank coupler. But as you'll see, that's actually a little bit short. So I'm going to probably replace that with a long shanked coupler. At some point down the line, once I get some, I don't have any in stock, but it'll install the exact same way. So for the rear coupler, there are two covers on the coupler box. You need to put one over the back that has the larger hole, that's the bottom, and then the coupler goes into the top, which is the deeper section, and then the plate goes on top and it gets screwed into place. And it lines up beautifully with the B unit, so we're good there. But as you can see, there's still quite a bit of gap between the units, so a short shank coupler on at least one unit may not be a bad idea. The front coupler is more of a traditional coupler box, so we can insert that. Again, you want to make sure you have the coupler facing the right way in the box. And on the B unit, you need to slide the coupler and coupler box through the opening in the pilot and then screw it into place. And as you'll recall back from one of the early videos, I stored the screws on the A unit in the frame, so again they wouldn't get lost, so I just had to remove that so I can put it into the coupler box, and then I can insert the whole thing and get it all set up and working. And yes, you did see my screwdriver fly out of my hands there. And with the couplers installed in place, we drop the screw in and screw it in. This can get a little tricky getting things in. Probably would be a good spot for me to use my screw grabber, but I didn't think to do that at the time. But with the coupler installed now, we can check the height gauge with the Katie coupler. And here you're going to see that the air hose on the coupler gauge is hitting the front pilot because the shank on the locomotive is just a little bit too short. Not a huge deal on the front of this unit because this will always run as an A/B set, and so that front coupler will rarely be used. But I do want to make sure it's set up so that it works properly if it's needed. It took me a minute to figure it out, but once I did, Figured that, but the height is good, so we're good on that. Yeah, you can see the trip pin pushing against the pilot on the locomotive. Okay, the last thing I want to do is a little bit of weathering. I'm using pan pastels. These will adhere well to a matte finish like we've put on here. So I'm using some black on the exhaust fans and the stacks in here just to show some soot and dirt. Also going to put some on the winterization hatch. That'll help bring out some of the details on it as well. And then I'm also going to use a medium grade shade on the roof of the locomotive just to give it a good look. And the air horns look like they twisted, so we'll fix that as well while we're here. Okay, and then there's the medium grade shade. And I just want to do like a dry brushing of it on here. So just get a little bit on my sponge, wipe most of it off, and then just apply it lightly to the top. If I get too much on it, I can always scrub it off with a clean section of brush. But this will make the top look like it's faded a little bit in the sun, which is a normal condition of operations. The last bit of weathering I want to do is on the diaphragms. I'm just going to run a gray pencil along the edges to kind of give it a look like some of the paint has worn off and you see some of the steel of the diaphragm plate showing through. With that, these locomotives are ready to go on the layout. The only thing I need left to do is to program the decoders to the engine numbers and put them into operations. And my plan is to do that and show them running in an upcoming short, so please subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for that. Thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this series. I think next up I'm going to paint a caboose to go with these, so I will be starting that project next Thursday's video. Thank you for watching and enjoy your day.